Hi, welcome back to the workshop for episode 20 of the Rickenbacker 620 12 string build. And in this episode we're going to continue with the headstock logo by getting it inlaid. Okay, so in the last episode we got this veneer glued on as well as making the little logo to go on here. This time I'm going to start off by just getting this all cleaned up, get it trimmed back, and then kind of get all of the slots and holes and everything that needs to be done in there sorted out before we look at how we're going to actually cut out the relief for that logo to fit in. That's not something I'm particularly looking forward to. I think it's going to be very difficult, potentially impossible, but we'll see how we go. All right. I think the first thing I'm just going to do is see if I can just kind of trim this down a bit with a scalpel. Get it somewhere near. And I think what I'm going to do now is get this in the vise. Then I'm just going to take one of these fine carving files and I'll go at this at a slight angle and just clean the rest of that excess veneer away. Okay, so that's the perimeter done and it's come up quite nicely. Very happy with that. So next is to do these slots, and this could be a little bit on the dodgy side. I'm going to try and see if we can just get a scalpel into that and take the bulk of it out that way. I'm just going through in a couple of passes. Now I don't really have one of those files that's small enough to kind of go into that slot, so I'm just going to try and do this with some relatively rough sandpaper and see if we can get it done that way. Okay, and then to move on to these tuner post holes, I'm just going to drill through from the back and just support with a piece of MDF so I don't blow out the front of that veneer. and then just open them out from the front. Until we get them to the right size. Okay, and with that done, we can now just give this a very quick sand over. I'm going with 180 there. And then just switch that out for some 240 for the time being, and I think that's probably far enough for what we need. And I'm sure you'll agree, that looks absolutely splendid. There's a very slight little chip on one of these, which I'm a little bit gutted about. Almost all of that will be covered by the bushing. So, while it's not ideal, it's not the end of the world. I'm sure once we get some finish onto this, we can repair that without any issue. See, things do go wrong. So with all that done, I really don't have any excuse for continued procrastination. We need to start thinking about getting this installed. Now, I'm really liking the idea of this. I think it is going to look very nice. Probably position it there to be more accurate. And it's now time to find out exactly how we are going to inlay this. However, anyone who's been following this build will appreciate just how much time I've put into doing this headstock. There is hours and hours and hours of work involved here, so I'm simply not going to risk messing this up, inlaying this without doing a practice run first. So I've got just a lump of pretty bog standard maple, and I'm going to just have a practice run and see how cleanly I can actually get this inlaid, and hopefully not mess it up too much. Okay, so after what seems like an absolute age of dremeling, it was probably around about 40 minutes, I think. We have the cutout that we can get our little logo into. It's a little bit on the small side there, which is holding it out, but this is only a test. And hopefully you can see there. I think that's going to be close enough. There are a few little gaps. There's a little one around here, but I think by the time we get some adhesive in and we've actually got some finish over the top of it, that will fill up any tiny little voids. I had a couple of comments after the last video just kind of talking about finish, etc. Without giving too much away, this isn't going to be plain wood on the headstock. It will have a colour of sorts applied to it, which will give us an opportunity to kind of fill up any tiny little voids to a certain extent. I think also once you get a bit of clear coat over it and everything's flushed down and polished up, that potentially can hide a few little bits and bobs as well. So all in all, I'm very happy with that. All we've got to do now is get the real thing out and do that all over again, if possible, just a tiny little bit better. What I did discover was that in some places where I'd really cut into this with the scalpel, it made it really easy to cut to the line, because as soon as you started to cut the bulk of that material away, where that scalpel cut was deep enough, the rest of the material would just kind of flake away and leave a nice clean edge that was kind of perfectly fitting, more or less. So I think if anything, that's a lesson for next time, is to cut in the scalpel lines deeper and more consistently. Okay, and there it is, properly recessed in. Needs a little bit of clean up. There are one or two little gaps. They look a lot worse than they are because there's quite a lot of black pencil marks on there that I think once those are rubbed off, it will look a lot better. I think we are within realms of those little gaps getting filled up with a bit of finish. So whilst it's not perfect, I think that is actually going to be good enough for what we want. So that is kind of a major stumbling block out of the way. I'm really, really happy to have got that done without ruining the entire headstock. So that's good. However, that's pretty much as far as we can go with this now. I'm not actually going to glue this in until I start the finishing process, and that will become apparent once we actually get to that stage. So with that done, I can move away from the headstock for the time being. So that leaves us with what we're going to do next. And I think that's going to be to move back down the body end of things and start getting that prepared so we can get that permanently attached and turn this into a guitar shaped object. But that's all going to be for next time. I'm going to leave this episode here. So as always, like if you've liked, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll look forward to seeing you very soon. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye bye.